Okay, continuing with quotes, we're going to from the Holy Grail of Wisdom quotes by me, Pete Rogers. We're going to do J.R. Tolkien. He was the English author of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. He was a professor at Oxford. He was one of the member of the Inklings, along with C.S. Lewis, Owen Barfield, and a couple of other English Christians. Many of them, some of them were Catholics. Tolkien was a Catholic. And Joseph Pearce had one quote. He says, "The whole unfolding of history is a long defeat of Christianity without a total defeat." Tolkien wrote The Hobbit for his own kids. That's a common thing, that a writer will write something for his kids and it turns out to be really good. The Inklings sort of were a little bit of a throwback to Romanticism. You know, literature was becoming atheistic around the turn of the century, Finn the Sickle, and they wanted more Christianity. And again, it's a little bit like Romanticism. Romanticism looks back to Christianity in the Middle Ages and chivalry, sort of noble masculinity. Tolkien was a traditional Catholic. C.S. Lewis was a Protestant. He's from Northern Ireland, and he's a little more of an intellectual Christian than Tolkien. C.S. Lewis felt Catholics had too much veneration for Mary. My attitude is the Protestants are kind of stupid. They're very bleak. Okay, if you can't pray to the saints and you can't pray to Mary, you know, there's not much to do. Protestantism is too much. Do as I say, or I'll kick your ass and you'll burn in hell. Okay, you know, give me a break. Okay, that gets taken over by secular rulers, and it kind of becomes a big joke. Okay, C.S. Lewis was the most popular professor in all of Oxford. You know, he's one of the Inklings, and they wouldn't give him a full professor job, and I think it's because he was Irish. Okay, here's Tolkien quote. "Evil cannot create anything new. They can only corrupt and ruin what the good people have already invented or made." That is true. Just take a look at Christian cultural developments. Once they get taken over by atheism, they all go into the garbage can. You take an art museum that shows Christian art, it's magnificent. Then you show modern art, it's a piece of crap. You take a movie channel, okay? Walt Disney, while it's Christian, it is magnificent. Then it turns its back on God, says we want atheistic programming. It's no longer any good. Quote from Tolkien. He says, "How do you move on? You move on when your heart understands that there's no turning back. Everything done in this world is done by hope. Next to the word of God, the noble art of music is the greatest treasure in the world. Little by little, one travels far. I believe the legends and the myths are largely made of truth. We put the thought of love into all that we make." Yeah, creativity is a sign of hope and love. You know, and the good creativity, usually Christian creativity, it does honor to God, okay? If you don't have God in the picture, then most cultures just become, this is our team and all other teams are bad, let's kick their ass and take their stuff. Okay? I mean, look through culture. You know, I forget who made the quote, but they said the most common sound you hear when you look down the history of culture is the beating of war drums, okay? And it's almost always, let's get more powerful, we're stronger than our neighbor, let's kick his ass and let's rob his stuff. Okay, that's how the world's been run since the beginning of recorded history. Okay, J.R. Tolkien, "A single dream is more powerful than 1,000 realities. You have been chosen and you must therefore use your strength and wits that you have. The Lord of the Rings is, of course, a fundamentally religious and Catholic work, unconsciously so at first, but consciously in the revision." Now here's the big one. This is an important quote. "If you do not believe in a personal God, then the question of what is the purpose of life is unaskable and unanswerable." And I said that a bunch of times on here. Unless you have a God-based worldview, then you're saying that life has no meaning. And if you say that life has no meaning, then you're saying that human life has no meaning. And then if you're going to go with neo-Darwinism, atheism, you're going to say survival of the fittest, the strong survive, anybody who's weak deserves to lose and deserves to be bumped off. And that's standard thinking for secular rulers. And the proles are so stupid from public school, they think people like them. No. The billionaire perverts that run the world think there's far too many proles, and they want to minimize their number. That's well known. That's been in writing for like over 100 years. I don't know why the proles find that a big mystery. It's because the proles don't read. One ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and into the darkness to bind them. Okay, so there's a lot of truth in that Lord of the Rings story. All right, we got time for one more person here with quotes today. We're going to do Leo Tolstoy. And Leo Tolstoy, you know, he's a famous Russian writer. And by the way, Leo Tolstoy sucks, okay? I just let you know about him because I was interested in Russian literature when I was in college. I took extra classes in Russian literature. I was curious about it. It seemed interesting to me. And at first I thought Tolstoy was great because you read a Tolstoy novel and it's so real, Anna Karenina. You just feel like you're in the story. He describes things so accurately, so lifelike. But then you realize what his basic message is, that life is meaningless and there's nothing you can do and you're just screwed. That's what you get from reading Tolstoy. And then you start to hate him. And Ayn Rand said the same thing about it. She said, reading Tolstoy is like walking through a backyard full of dog feces. He's the worst. And you once you understand what you're reading, that's the truth about him. And he was a total pompous liar jerk. He himself was going to prostitutes. He was banging his female serfs. He was excommunicated from the Russian Orthodox Church. He was a terrible father to his children. He betrayed his wife by selling the royalties of his books to the Communist Party. He was a total pro-communist, anti-individual, anti-peasant. He would pretend to be one thing, but in reality, he was the opposite of it. He was anti-Christian. He was such a jerk. The more you learn about Tolstoy, the more you will hate him. I tell you that because I read some biographies on him and chapters on him. And so the more I learned about him, the more I'm like, this guy's an evil piece of crap. You will hate him. Jordan Peterson has a quote about him. He says, Dostoevsky wrote like a psychologist. Tolstoy writes like a sociologist. Yeah, Tolstoy writes like a sociologist and basically says, you're screwed. There's nothing you can do. Your fate is already determined for you. And that's not really fun to read, to be told that your life is hopeless and there's nothing you can do, which is the basic message of Tolstoy. Okay, I'll give you a few quotes of his, but coming from him, it weakens the quote. Free thinkers are those who are willing to use their minds without bias and without fearing to understand things that may contradict their own customs and beliefs. Okay, this frame of mind is not common, but it is essential for right thinking. Okay, fine. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one, though. The most difficult things can be explained to the most stupid, slow-witted man if he has not already formed an idea of them. But the simplest thing cannot be made clear even to the most intelligent man if he is firmly persuaded that he already knows the answer of what is put before him. Here's another one. Science is meaningless because it gives no answer to the most important questions. What should we do? How should we be? Yeah, and that's the other thing I run into. Pros think science is like replaced religion. They don't understand. Most of what is called science today is a big joke. It's fake. It's just advertising, okay? Darwinism is fake, okay? I was A+ student at Stanford University in Darwin. Darwinian biology, evolutionary biology, is fake. It is completely fake. It is fake in the sense that it pretends to explain macroevolution, which is what everybody cares about. It's only relevant for microevolution. It's irrelevant for origin of life and for the origin of complexity, okay? And that's what people care about. So basically, the way it is taught is completely dishonest and fake. It's the creation story for atheism. It's a big joke. And the famous evolutionary biologists that people talk about, like Dawkins, okay, Nick Lane, they're all paid off by billionaire perverts, okay? It's not legitimate science. It isn't. Okay. All right, so that's it for today. I hope you found it helpful.